Today is May 16th, 2026. In the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, Russian forces launched one of the largest aerial barrages since the full-scale invasion began in February 2022, with waves of drones and missiles targeting multiple locations, including the capital Kyiv, where a cruise missile struck a 9-story apartment building in the Darnytskyi district, resulting in the deaths of
actually leveled this entire building, killing 24 people.
Yes, the Ukraine-Russian war has been going on for about 4 years now, around 4 years now.
24 civilians, including 3 children and teenagers, with dozens more injured as rescue operations continued over more than 24 hours amid the rubble. 79 CEC 4EB 3 CB. This tragic incident, which occurred on May 14th and 15th, has drawn international attention as one of the deadliest strikes on Kyiv in recent memory, highlighting the continued intensity of the war, despite periodic discussions around potential peace negotiations. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the site, laid flowers, and vowed retribution, stating that Ukraine is entirely justified in responding against Russia's oil industry military production, and those responsible for what he described as war crimes. The attack took place during what Ukrainian officials called Russia's biggest barrage, involving over 1,500 drones and numerous missiles over a 2-day period, causing widespread damage and prompting a day of mourning across the country with flags lowered in many cities. AFD 3E7. If you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown of the situation in Ukraine and global geopolitics, make sure to subscribe to the channel OK Samu and turn on notifications so you never miss our daily updates on these critical developments. The broader context of this strike reveals a pattern of escalated aerial campaigns by Russia, following periods of relative restraint or negotiations with Ukrainian forces, also conducting retaliatory drone strikes on Russian territory, including a major fire at the Ryazan oil refinery, which processes significant volumes of crude oil annually, impacting energy infrastructure deep inside Russia. 5.5.F.2.9a. Energy markets have reacted with volatility as the conflict continues to threaten global supply chains, particularly for oil and liquefied natural gas, with analysts monitoring the Strait of Hormuz and other choke points for any spillover effects. Though as of now, the primary disruptions stem from the direct targeting of energy facilities in both nations. In the Middle East, tensions remain high but separate from the immediate Ukraine developments, with ongoing diplomatic efforts involving multiple powers to prevent escalation in that region, while the Ukraine-Russia war enters another phase of attrition. U.S.-China relations continue to influence the global landscape, with economic interdependencies and strategic rivalries affecting arms supplies and sanctions regimes that shape the battlefield in Eastern Europe. 7F28FD. The apartment building collapse in Kyiv has left families devastated, with reports of victims including teachers, a floorball captain, and ordinary residents going about their daily lives when the missile hit, underscoring the human cost that persists more than 4 years into the conflict. Emergency services worked tirelessly recovering bodies and rescuing survivors, with the death toll rising to 24 as search efforts concluded. This event comes amid prisoner swaps, with hundreds exchanged, recently indicating some limited humanitarian channels remain open even as fighting intensifies. No significant progress in high-level peace talks has been reported recently, with both sides maintaining firm positions on territorial integrity and security guarantees. E4B 946. And if you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel OK Samu and turn on notifications for more in-depth, factual coverage like this every day. Shifting focus to the military movements on the ground, Russian advances in eastern Ukraine, particularly around Donetsk, have slowed considerably due to Ukrainian defenses and logistical challenges, while Ukrainian forces have conducted successful strikes on Russian rear areas, disrupting supply lines. The use of drones has become central to both sides' strategies, with Russia deploying massive swarms and Ukraine demonstrating precision in hitting high-value targets far from the front lines. ED4, E4, 6. Economically, the war continues to strain both economies, with Ukraine receiving sustained international support through aid packages, while facing reconstruction challenges, and Russia managing under sanctions that have redirected its trade flows primarily toward Asia. Global food security remains a concern due to disruptions in grain exports from the Black Sea region, though alternative routes and agreements have mitigated some risks. In terms of energy markets, oil prices have seen upward pressure from the uncertainty, with LNG shipments rerouted to support European allies, reducing dependence on Russian supplies. The situation in the Strait of Hormuz stays stable for now, but any escalation involving Iran or other actors could compound global energy woes. E70FAE. Geopolitically, the United States and its NATO partners have reiterated commitments to Ukraine while balancing domestic priorities and relations with China, which maintains a neutral stance publicly but engages economically with Russia. Peace talks have stalled on key issues such as borders demilitarization and NATO membership aspirations, with mediators from various countries attempting to bridge gaps without breakthroughs. The Kyiv strike has prompted renewed calls from Western leaders for accountability and increased military assistance to counter the aerial threats. 0FA4B2. If you appreciate the comprehensive factual analysis provided here, please subscribe to OK Samu right now and hit the notification bell to stay informed on all major global events as they unfold. Delving deeper into the timeline, the barrage began with intensified drone launches on May 13th to 14th, followed by missile strikes that overwhelmed air defenses in several regions, leading to the apartment building hit, which Ukrainian Air Force reports indicate was part of a coordinated large-scale operation. Civilian infrastructure has been a point of contention, with Russia denying deliberate targeting of non-military sites, while Ukraine presents evidence of residential areas being struck. International observers and media from outlets like AP, Reuters, and others have documented the aftermath with photos and videos showing extensive rubble and rescue operations. 6ABD06. On the economic front, the impacts extend to global markets, where stock exchanges in Europe and Asia have shown caution, with energy stocks fluctuating based on reports from the conflict zone. European nations continue diversifying energy sources, investing in renewables and alternative suppliers to build resilience against future shocks. In the United States, policy debates around aid to Ukraine influence congressional decisions, with public opinion divided, yet strategic interests in containing broader authoritarian advances remain a key driver. China has increased its diplomatic engagement, offering proposals for ceasefires that have not gained full traction from all parties involved. FC 2413. Military analysts note that the scale of the recent Russian aerial assault, exceeding 1,400 drones in a short period, represents a significant logistical effort, highlighting Russia's production capacity despite sanctions. Ukraine's responses, including strikes on oil refineries, aim to degrade Russia's ability to sustain prolonged operations by targeting fuel production and storage. The prisoner exchange of over 200 individuals demonstrates that back-channel communications persist, facilitating humanitarian outcomes, even amid active hostilities. The human stories emerging from Kyiv include communities coming together for support vigils and aid distribution as the nation mourns. EFD17B. And if you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel OK Samu and turn on notifications so you can receive timely, factual insights into these complex international situations. Broader geopolitics in the Middle East involve ongoing monitoring of proxy conflicts and energy routes, with the Hormuz Strait remaining vital for a large percentage of global oil transport. Any disruption there would have cascading effects far beyond the region, amplifying the importance of stability. U.S.-China dynamics include trade negotiations, technology restrictions, and military posturing in the Indo-Pacific, which indirectly affect support levels for European conflicts through resource allocation. 6B8611. The war in Ukraine has evolved into a high-tech contest, with electronic warfare jamming drones and advanced missiles playing pivotal roles. Both sides have adapted tactics, with Ukraine focusing on asymmetric strikes and Russia emphasizing volume of fire. Economic sanctions have forced Russia to pivot its economy toward a wartime footing with increased military spending, impacting civilian sectors. Ukraine's economy shows resilience in certain areas like technology and agriculture, but faces immense reconstruction costs estimated in hundreds of billions. International financial institutions continue providing loans and grants to stabilize the situation. 0ECFF7. Periodic assessments from think tanks and open-source intelligence indicate that while territorial gains are incremental, the overall strategic stalemate persists, with neither side achieving decisive breakthroughs recently. The Kyiv attack, however, serves as a stark reminder of the war's reach into urban centers far from the eastern front lines. Global media coverage has amplified the civilian toll, prompting discussions in the United Nations and other forums on protecting non-combatants. Humanitarian aid organizations have ramped up efforts delivering medical supplies and shelter assistance to affected areas. If you are enjoying this in-depth narrative script on the Ukraine situation and related global affairs, we encourage you to subscribe to OK Samu and enable notifications for our consistent daily factual reports. Energy markets specifically have seen Brent crude and other benchmarks react to news of infrastructure damage, with traders assessing long-term supply risks. LNG terminals in Europe have increased throughput from US and other exporters to compensate for any potential shortfalls. The interconnected nature of global energy means events in Ukraine reverberate to Asia, Africa, and the Americas, influencing everything from heating costs to industrial production. 4F3BDD. In terms of military movements, satellite imagery and reports show Russian forces consolidating positions in some eastern areas while preparing for further offensives, possibly targeting key logistics hubs. Ukrainian troops have conducted successful counter-battery operations and special forces missions disrupting enemy plans. The role of Western-supplied systems like air defense batteries has been crucial in mitigating larger losses during the recent barrages. Training programs for Ukrainian personnel continue abroad, enhancing capabilities over time. B55670. The peace process remains complex, with proposals involving territorial compromises, security pacts, and economic incentives, but deep mistrust hinders advancement. Recent statements from leaders on both sides indicate willingness for talks under certain conditions, yet actions on the ground suggest continued fighting. International mediators from Turkey, China, and others have proposed frameworks without resolution thus far. Public sentiment in Ukraine remains resolute for defense of sovereignty, while in Russia, state media portrays the operation as necessary for security. 0C791D. And if you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel OK Samu and turn on notifications to stay ahead with accurate information. Expanding on the economic impacts, inflation rates in affected countries have fluctuated, with Ukraine managing through fiscal measures and international support. Russia has utilized parallel import schemes and domestic production boosts to counter sanctions effects. Global supply chains for metals, grains, and chemicals have adjusted, with some commodities seeing price spikes tied to the conflict news. Investors monitor these developments closely for portfolio adjustments. 3F5B4. Further details on the Kyiv incident reveal that the missile was a Kh-101 type launched as part of the massive assault, with Ukrainian defenses intercepting many, but not all, incoming threats due to the sheer volume. The building collapse trapped residents, leading to heroic rescue efforts by firefighters and volunteers. Zelensky's on-site visit underscored leadership solidarity with victims, promising justice and strengthened defenses. International condemnation has been widespread, with calls for investigations into potential violations of international humanitarian law. 0B9D52. Geopolitical ripple effects include heightened alerts in NATO countries bordering the conflict zone, with exercises and readiness measures in place. The U.S. has coordinated with allies on additional aid packages, focusing on air defense and long-range capabilities. China has called for de-escalation while expanding trade with Russia in non-sanctioned areas. Middle East dynamics feature diplomatic visits and energy deals that could influence global alignments. The Strait of Hormuz sees regular naval patrols by multiple nations, ensuring safe passage for tankers. 52B1A9. This comprehensive overview draws from verified open-source reports as of May 16, 2026, including statements from officials on-site documentation and market analyses. The situation remains fluid, with developments possible at any moment requiring continuous monitoring. If you value this type of professional factual narrative, please subscribe to OK Samu and turn on notifications for daily updates that deliver genuine knowledge without sensationalism. The war's continuation affects millions, with humanitarian needs growing alongside military expenditures. Reconstruction planning for Ukraine involves international conferences mapping out future infrastructure resilient to threats. CC 998b. Military experts discuss the sustainability of current tactics, noting drone production rates and ammunition stockpiles as critical factors. Ukraine has innovated with domestic manufacturing to supplement imports. Russia relies on alliances for components, evading restrictions. Economic warfare through sanctions and countermeasures shapes the long-term outlook, with both economies adapting in different ways. Global forums like the G7 and others coordinate responses, balancing support for Ukraine with avoiding broader escalation. 0B3231. And if you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel OK Samu and turn on notifications. In summary, the tragic loss of 24 civilians in Kyiv adds to the cumulative toll, while the conflict's dynamics involve intertwined military, economic, and diplomatic strands that define the current global order. Energy security, geopolitics in multiple theaters, and the human dimension all converge in this ongoing situation. The apartment strike and subsequent responses exemplify the cycle of action and retaliation that characterizes the war's current phase. International efforts continue toward finding a sustainable resolution, though challenges abound.